main area of concentration now has to do with a project that I'm doing in Durham, North Carolina, where I've been studying the Durham Latino community since 2000 and tracking how people are arriving in Durham, where they're settling, where are they living, how are they adapting to the community, and so forth. Durham was a very interesting place to study this because basically there were no Latino immigrants in Durham before 1990. So there was a very sudden flow of immigrants to the Durham area during the 1990s. The population grew dramatically from 1% in 1990 to 15% in 2000. So it provided us with a unique opportunity to understand how Latino communities are formed and how they arrive, what are the first things that people do, how are institutions serving the Latino community emerge, and so forth. And it also gave us a very unique opportunity to understand where they were coming from and have some sort of transnational design for understanding immigration and for understanding the consequences of migration, and both in the US and in Mexico. What we did is we started doing research in Durham, and then we identified the places where people were coming from, and then we did the same survey that we did in Durham, we did it in Mexican sending communities. Especially important because there are there's a common assumption that a lot of the things that immigrants do in the US has to do with some sort of a cultural background or just a continuation of practices that they were doing in communities of origin. Examples are alcohol consumption. You know, the assumption is that people consume a lot of alcohol in Mexico and then they come to the US, and it's just a continuation of that. However, we see that the changes associated with migration alters the patterns of alcohol consumption, and it cannot be explained exclusively as a continuation of practices from communities of origin. One of the things that you face when doing research with immigrants is that the data is not good, and moreover, in many instances, the questions that apply to immigrants don't get asked, and so surveys tend to be done at the national representative surveys tend to ask questions that apply more or less to the general population, but immigrants face very peculiar conditions and questions that we're trying to understand. You know, why did they pick Durham when they decided to migrate instead of going to Pittsburgh? Or why didn't they stay in California? Well, and things like that sometimes don't get asked because these are questions that really affect immigrants.